Hilton, thank you so much and a warm welcome from over here. It's a real pleasure to have all of you on the line listening in. I'm going to talk about product insights today, and I want to start off with the usual quick disclaimer that out of the many promises I'm going to make, there is no guarantee that they actually become reality, even though we of course hope so. We're going to be successful in delivering these. But today's session is quite forward-looking. So let me walk you through our roadmap of 2020. Starting off with a picture that you probably have seen, and part of it were on slides earlier today. But it tries to highlight within our architecture where's the key investments that were taken in 2020 and that we're working on right now in what we call our Q2 focus. So if you start on the upper left-hand side, in our enterprise architecture suite, business transformation management is the new module that we have started working on. It has not been yet released. We're aiming at September for a first release, but it's something that's really exciting for us because it basically takes a focus that is very much on capturing the as-is into a lot of functionality that supports strategic planning, road mapping, and understanding the impact of the transformations onto your future architecture. Over on the Cloud Native Suite, as you have guessed, that's a heavy area of investment. We continue to work on Cloud Intelligence. I'm going to provide a bit of detail on that today, what we have recently released, as well as Microservice Intelligence, which is one of the focus items this year and that we have started to use internally, as Christian was showing to you. On the platform side, there's really two areas of focus. One that is the workflow engine. It's basically the foundation of making LeanIX more actionable. And Andre touched briefly based on that in his intro. The idea here is basically that with all of the analytics that we provide in the visualization, when you get a certain insight, we want to basically allow you to take action and basically start the work right out of LeanIX. The other key area is our integration API. The first version was released back in November, but we have continued to work on that quite heavily. It basically allows you to deeply integrate in a very easy fashion. And we're basically our own best consumer of that new capability. So if you look down on the integrations area, you have seen the release with Apptio. I'm really happy on the partnership. And I think Ed provided you some really nice deep insight into how the connector works. Lucidchart, which you're going to hear a bit more later on with Brent providing a lot of details. So I'll spare these two areas in my talk today. But then forward-looking, we have started to work on a Jira integration, and especially when it comes to workflow integrations and better support for Agile. That for us is a really important area. And then last but not least, the Kubernetes connector, which is coming in conjunction with Microservice Intelligence and which is a user prototype at the current point. So that provides a little bit of an architectural picture. But if I look at the themes that we have outlined for 2020, let me briefly walk you through these. So the first area we call excellence in detail. And that is really all of the information or the things that we learn back from you as our customers. And basically is the things that we improve as part of the product as we learn and how you use the product. Build out platform has three main areas. It's all of the ecosystem, the integration APIs I talked to, as well as the connectors that productize that for specific integrations. The workflow support that right now is a backend capability. You're going to see that coming up in the product probably in a Q3, Q4 timeframe, when we're going to basically provide you with interactive workflows. And a functionality called computed fields that basically allows you to update certain states in your architecture model based on other field information in an automated fashion. It's again a functionality that will basically we plan to release in Q3, but that we have started to work on at this point. And then there's all the nice future-looking functionality that we call expand scope in our roadmap. So it's the Cloud Native Suite with Cloud Intelligence that was released in November, and we keep continuously improving on that in a fairly rapid fashion. The new BTM module that is basically all around capturing strategy and roadmaps and allowing you to plan out the future. We're going to invest further into APM, TRM, and standards management, especially in the context of workflow support. So basically, we want to streamline how you take the learnings out of APM, TRM, and basically take action on these. The Lucidchart integration is a key example of what we call third-party modeling integrations. And at this point, we're quite satisfied where we are. So there is discussions on whether we want to add further capabilities, but that's probably out of the picture for this year. And the last one, Andre covered that in the beginning, is the self-service portal that basically aims at making a lot of the information within LeanIX much more consumable and addressing a much bigger audience within the enterprise in order to basically look at applications and use them for requesting and ordering, provide technology catalogs, and many more applications that you can build with these. So maybe quick look backwards, what we have delivered so far in 2020. And as you see, it's quite a lengthy list that is displayed here on the slide. As a few highlights, I do want to dig a little deeper into self-service configuration. It's basically great functionality that allows you to configure and adapt LeanIX to your requirements. I'm going to speak briefly to the integration API. The Apptio connector is a big area of improvement. And one little note here, the Apptio connector now provides you with an ability to export information from LeanIX into Apptio. There is a second part of the integration still coming that we have started to work on that allows us to read cost information out of Apptio and bring that back into LeanIX and surface and use that in reporting within LeanIX. Cloud intelligence, that's going to be the third deep dive. So you can tell the numbers are the areas that I'm going to spend a bit more time drilling into. Microservice intelligence and the Lucidchart integration, that probably for the time being has been released, and we're interested to get your feedback. There is discussions to further deepen that integration, but there's nothing concrete planned at the current point in time. And then there's all the other improvements that I'm not going to go through in detail, but that are listed out here on this presentation. So let me briefly move over into self-configuration as a deep dive. So as of today, or as of 2 weeks ago, to be honest, if you wanted to change your data model or change the view of the information, you basically had to send a ticket to our customer success, and they would basically adapt the configuration for you in a fairly quick loop, but still something that is a little bit of effort. And what we're aiming at with self-service configuration is to make that consumable by our workspace administrators, so that you can basically change any of the information in the data model, any information in the view model yourself, and very quickly iterate and customize the way you're going to consume LeanIX. So that has a number of key benefits. So it increases the efficiency and the turnaround times. It allows you to very quickly individualize your workspace. It improves accessibility and overall acceptance quite a bit in our opinion. What we have launched 2 weeks ago is the first tranche of that capability. So you can now, with the functionality, change the labels of any of the fact sheets, the fields, the field values. I'm going to show a bit on how that works in a minute. We're right now working on the ability to introduce new fields and to move fields around, and also to manipulate the sections, subsections. And that will be followed on with some additional work in Q3 when we talk about deletion of information, as well as changing weights and orders of fields as part of the completion score. The functionality is available as part of the APM base module, so at no extra cost. If you're still under the old pricing, it becomes available if you have any of our configuration packages licensed. So let me briefly walk you through how that actually works. So within LeanIX, if you basically go over to the inventory, you open up a fact sheet and go onto a specific fact sheet of a type, a workspace administrator can see a new option called configuration. And that basically brings into the screen that allows you to change the data and the view of that specific fact sheet type. So, for example, you can change the fact sheet type itself. You can very easily change also a translation. You see here German, but you also noticed one of the features that we have released is the support for French and Spanish. So all of that can be changed here. You can, of course, change a section title and very quickly adapt that to your needs. And you, for example, could go into an individual field and go down to the individual value of one of the categories in this case, and basically quickly change that. It also allows you to look basically at any of the help text and make that more tailored towards your community if that is something that you would like to do. All of that basically gets configured. There is a section already on fields that are currently not being used. That's in preparation for the support for additional fields and moving of fields. If you then save that configuration, you get a little summary. And as soon as you then press save, that is the moment when the information actually is getting live applied onto your workspace. So you see here basically that the information that we have changed as part of the configuration is now live and available. So first part is available as of now. There's more releases coming. We have a fairly incremental strategy. So whenever there's new functionality becoming available, we basically release that over to you. A quick information on the integration API. I'm not going to be able to cover that in all depth today, but basically we have an upcoming webinar that I want to point you to that provides a customer view on a very successful use of the integration API in an integration. Thank you to Kuka for helping us out here. But it's also going to teach you a lot of the technical details on how integration API works and how you can basically make value out of the utilization. So I'd be very happy if you sign up for the webinar. It's of course free. One more deep dive on the cloud intelligence side. One of the functionality we have released here is a new data service that basically brings the obsolescence use case over to cloud intelligence. So today, the information on when a certain cloud component is out of life or end of life or is at the risk of not being supported is very distributed among the different vendors in a very unstructured fashion. So what we provide here is harvesting that information for you, putting that into a database and making that available directly in cloud intelligence so that for every single cloud component, you can actually see the corresponding lifecycle information. So that allows you to get a very quick view whether there is any unsupported cloud components currently in your use. Or you can then use reporting to basically ask the question, what is the cloud components that are either getting deprecated or have limited availability or are completely unsupported by the end of the year. So basically make it a more proactive process, very much of what you're known and used to from the enterprise architecture, more classical tech obsolescence use case. So let me briefly turn over to what we plan to do in Q2 and the following time. So as I mentioned earlier, we're going to keep working on self-configuration. There's going to be quite a bit of improvements coming up in our reporting, especially in the landscape report, largely in context with business transformation management as a module. We have a new feature called Smart Indicators. I do provide you with a bit more detail in a minute. We, of course, going to be investing in cloud intelligence and microservice intelligence. I talked you through with that. We are heavily working right now on the self-service portal. I'm going to provide a bit more information in a minute. And then one of the key areas is the business transformation module that we basically have been working on for quite a while now. As I said, aiming for a release in September. Briefly looking at smart indicators. That is a feature that we bring right now into early adoption. It basically allows you to calculate a number of KPIs on your workspace. So information on redundancy, on technical risk or technical debt, and other KPIs that we provide you as a historic KPI with a key functionality that allows you to compare that to the industry standard. So the idea here basically is that if you opt in for this feature, we would make use of the information that is available in your workspace and compute an industry average out of that that we then share with all of our customers. And that will give you an overview on where do you stand in respect to others or your peer group in terms of redundancy, tech risk, tech debt, and many of the other scores. So if you're interested, opt-in works the settings in the workspace administration. If you want to basically be part of that program early on, please get in contact with your customer success manager quickly. A bit more color on the self-service portal, sort of building on what Andre provided you as information early on. Important information here is that we'll have an early access program starting on June 1st, where we basically want to iterate for 3 weeks testing the software. So if you're interested in helping us improve the software for the release and provide feedback for the later iterations, then please get in touch with me if you're interested and send me a quick email. The release date for the functionality is June 19th, but June 1st is sort of the earliest access if you want to be part of that program. And with that, on to the final topic on BTM. The idea basically here is that we want to provide you with functionality that allows you to model strategy, to use that to plan out your transformations, whether that's a digital transformation, a cloud transformation, or just a yearly planning exercise. And basically take it all the way into execution. That's going to be available as a new module, BTM, as I said, targeted towards September 2020. The beta actually on this program has already started in April 2020 and is basically on its way as we speak. What is BTM about? It basically covers the whole range of use cases from need identification, so things like getting the objectives and goals in order to model out your strategy, but also more standard EA processes like app rationalization or tech obsolescence. It goes into scenario planning, where we basically start off with building blocks and then refine that into projects and epics in order to detail out the work that is necessary. But at the heart of what we do really is what we call impacts. And that is a description on how is the architecture going to change through the different work items that you have defined. So it basically allows you to describe whether there's any new fact sheets or any new relationships or any updated field values on basically any property of our architecture model coming out of any of the planned items. So it basically is a representation on what future change happens to your enterprise architecture model once that building block or project or epic is done. And we're then going to use that type of information to visualize change in the future and to also make the process of updating the enterprise architecture model much more transparent, where we can basically then automatically imply impacts when we get to know that the work is actually done. So in terms of visualization, just to give you a quick idea, so basically on any of our reports, we want to be able to allow you to pick a plan. So that's basically a scenario or a container for all of the work that you want to do. And if you have that plan, we'll provide you with a timeline that basically allows you to visualize, in this case, how is my application landscape looking like at that current point or at that point in time in the future under the assumption for this plan. And that's very powerful because it allows you to analyze different scenarios and plan them out, decide for one, and even do comparisons between different points in time or different scenarios, like is displayed here for the portfolio report, where basically we pick 2 points in time and allow you to visualize how is my enterprise architecture changing. So very brief outlook on what BTM is, very big project on our part. And with that, I do want to conclude and say thank you and stay tuned for what's going to come in the future. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Jan. Some interesting and exciting developments that are in play already and some new things coming down the line. If you've got a few seconds, we've got 2 questions I'd like to put to you.
Absolutely.
So let me just have a quick look here. So first question, would LeanIX consider integrations with an application performance management tool like Dynatrace or App Dynamics in the future?
We would certainly consider it. It's not on the short list. So out of the many integration ideas that we hear and that at product management we carefully track, application performance monitoring is not really the ones that we hear the most. But we're always open for suggestions and certainly are considering that as a case.
Thank you. And of course, we listen as carefully as we can to our customer base as Jan prioritizes the different features and products we launch. Another question, are there any plans to integrate with data cataloging tools and link to business capabilities?
Yeah, similar question. It does come up every once in a while. We have been in discussions on whether that's something that we would want to do. It's not on the 2020 roadmap. One reason for launching the integration API is that it provides with the flexibility for our customers or partners to build these type of integrations in a fairly streamlined and easy fashion. So it's basically a few days of work, and then many of these things could actually be built. But as LeanIX, we carefully select because we basically have to be careful with our capacity.
Great. I think that's all we have time for right now, Jan. So as always, thank you very much for sharing that and going to some detail. We know that some of this stuff is forward-looking, but we're always excited to be as transparent as we can with our customers and prospects.